Push that around the whole time.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I'm pretty excited.
You're going to be exhausted by the end.
I know. Right, I know. I'm going to say the field house and wherever we are going.
Right. Hey, you never have dinner, are you? How are you? Good to see you. Brian, Steve Curtis. Cool. Scream at me. I hope we can see Welcome. We'll call this meeting to order. Great. This is the Facilities Committee meeting of the Mahomet Seymour School Board of Education. And take a roll call, please.
Keith?
Here.
Hendricks.
Here. And I pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So moved. I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. Do we need a roll call vote for that? Any public comment? So, I guess we'll leave that up to you for the tour.
Yeah, so we're just going to walk around the high school and take a peek at some of the different areas where we have some proposed work that needs to be done over the next, I don't know, next fill in the blank months, years. And so that includes the field house, the dish room, kind of the front entrance area, and then I'm missing anything.
Yeah, industrial arts. A
Oh,
variety of
industrial
spaces.
arts
We have the
areas.
list here. We'll introduce Damien Schlitt from BLDD, our architect of record. And we also have Dave and Brian from Amoresco, two engineers from Amoresco, when we talk about HVAC controls. Other than that, the dish room, Steve and I'll kind of double team when we get to that point. But I figured we'd start with at the top of the list, and that was the field house, starting with plenty of work done on that from last. I really started about this time last year. And so we have a lot of that kind of ironed out, but we figured we'd start there and just discuss that project first. We're going to head that direction.
Sure. We do need to just be cognizant of the time. We have some folks with obligations around 7:15, so hopefully we can do that. And,
I'll keep it brief.
okay. All right.
So, Don,
Thanks for coming.
roll on over here, Don. Please, somebody get a picture of this. This is like-
Very official. Right.
Hey, I'm good. How are you? For a second, it was like that one pocket.
Yep.
Just send that document. I'm sorry.
I did. I
I've been
saw it.
catching
Yeah,
up.
no problem. Thank you.
Maybe you can file an objection to that I'm also glad that the record will show that I said all of that.
Mike going right now? All right, you want me to take it over right here? All right, so the work in the field house is varied, both from finishes of the space, there's some mechanical items. As we leave this space, there's also 3 sets of locker rooms we're going to take a look at, varying kind of levels of work that were happening in those, and we'll make our way through the building. So in this space, 2 largest items that were going to be occurring was the floor and the current curtain systems. Starting with the floor, this is a 20-year-old poured-in-place polyurethane or sheet-type polyurethane system. It's done its job. It's been held up well. It's been maintained well. It's been used, as we all know, in the community. It's really just reached the end of its life. So the intention of this floor is that it would actually be left in place instead of being demolished. Saves, I think it was about $100,000 in total demolition. The floor would be slit to allow for any breathing of the concrete below it, and the new floor would go over that. I actually have samples of a material that we were specifying and recommending. Product name is Mondo. There are other similar types of products, but Mondo is really the best floor that we can put into this space. There's 2 types of the system. One would be the system to be in the middle portion, which is considered no spike zone. You could walk across it if you had spikes, but you don't want to be running events on it with spikes. The other is considered spike proof or spike resistant. That's what would be on the track. It's the same material. Again, it's just a little bit different surface. As far as the configuration of it, we will remain the same. It'll still be 165 meter track, I believe is what we have here. 6 lanes. We were looking at adding a second set of sprint lanes to this side, which would allow for expediency of indoor track meets, things like that. Keeping the sprint lanes on that side as well. And then again, keeping with the courts on the inside. We did explore the opportunity or the options of changing the track to a 160, which again is a 1/10 of a mile. Makes it a little bit easier for track meets. That would then result, though, in 1 of 2 things. One, we have to then move all the equipment that's on the basketball courts to be a little bit smaller, because that track gets smaller. Or we would have the track overlapping the corners of our basketball courts. As we explored those additional costs to move all that, we determined to stay with the same layout configuration that's been being used. That then leads into the next piece, which is the curtains. The intention is to, again, trying to minimize the amount of work. There's a lot of good bones here. It's just the system, the mechanical, the moving parts, and the actual fabric is what is kind of worn and at the end of its life. So we designed it
very similar layout. We did have some reconfigurations for ease of access in and out. One of the biggest complaints with these current systems were the flap doors. They never really worked, and then they ended up failing and falling off. That's actually a dated technology, so we wouldn't have those again. But the intention here was that you can see those, they look like upside down joists up there, the black pieces of steel with the triangles on them. Those would all remain in place. That saves a lot of money, effort, time, and then the new system would just be anchored from that point down. We've worked with manufacturers to kind of line that out. It would also allow for minimizing the amount of additional electrical work, reworking. If we reconfigured it completely or really changed it up, there could be additional costs in that way. To that note, though, there will be, with that system, some additional functionality. Currently, we can walk down and look at it. There's a cabinet with probably 25 keys in it. You can only operate one of those at a time. I actually have used this facility in the mornings on Sundays, and it takes about 30 to 40 minutes to set up. If everything's down, and you want, or all baskets are down, or all the curtains are up, it takes about 3 minutes per item. So that's just a functionality thing that outside users feel, but even setting up for PE class, if you wanted to switch over between basketball and track or some other full court type of event, they could save a half hour of prep time. So that was something that's also included in that. Would be changing out that control system. What that would allow is a more touch screen interaction, and that then allows for multiple pieces to move at once. So you can program it to say basketball team. You would drop the basketball hoops and put down the right curtains. If you were doing a biddy ball camp or something like that, there's even functionality that we could add in. I think we'll plan to add that later, motorized, but for motorized height adjustment as well. So that's kind of the scope for that. Beyond those two major systems, it was also just upgrades. So paint out of the space, kind of cleaning that up. We're actually adding, you can see at the CMU there, it goes up, about 12 feet. And then from there up, that's just the back of the metal building insulation exposed. It's a major cost savings from the time it's constructed. What we're looking at doing is adding a Tectum panel. I don't know if anybody's heard of what that is. It kind of looks like shredded wheat, but it's very durable, very impact resistant, but it's got a really great acoustical value to it. So instead of, if we just put drywall up there, it becomes very loud in here. I mean, you blow a whistle and it echoes for seconds. Where with that, you still get the acoustical value of what that insulation is doing, kind of lowering the volume, but gives us a nice surface that we can paint, create a more finished look in the space. Lastly, there are two pieces of equipment up on the ceiling there. Those are makeup air, really kind of large fans that bring in fresh air into space. Those are looking to be replaced, and we've actually already identified those able to use health life safety funds, so that's something that we're considering.
Are those operational right now? Have they ever worked, really?
They're not. They operate, but not how they were intended to operate. Okay. They will move some air. One spins and one does not.
I think the bearings are completely out on their way out.
So what we replace it with is going to be not just an air exchange. It's actually going to move air in here.
So first of all, it'll be 20 years newer technology, so it'll be a bit more efficient amount of function. And those, they don't turn well. The one might turn, but not really supposed to turn. It won't be adding air conditioning. But they should definitely ventilate it much better.
Are those repairable right now?
No, I think the total dollars we got bid for those was like $34,000. That's about $17,000 a unit. By the time you put more time and effort into it, working over the floors, it's just not worth it. We can get another 20 years out of the next units. It's going to be money well spent.
Should we just change the controller and leave the current motors in place?
No, we can't. No. First of all, these motors and the systems that are currently out there are not set up for that, so that's part of the controls expecting them to be able to all actually happen at the same time. That's part of it, as well as there's some electrical that has to happen from the panel room to that to provide the sufficient amount of circuits to make it all.
Can we change the control and adjust the motors?
Honestly, I don't think we can, because the motors are sized for the curtains, and it's all kind of together. It's all kind of engineered together. So the way that you can see like how the attachment happens, those straps, and the way the cables go through, the way that those are constructed now is different. So you're trying to put a motor that's functioning in a new or recent technology onto a motor. Not only that, but there are several of the curtains that are just dropped off. There's damage shown, there's scuffing, there's tearing, things like that.
Can you show us an example of that?
Yeah. So this curtain. Because it's in need of maintenance, which then limits what we do in space. So these curtains on this corner are kind of in the worst shape functionally that way. Also, when designing this, we had discussions with a company that's very prominent that makes these portable umbrellas. By the time the labor to take this apart, to put up a new motor and infrastructure, and then to put the new on, you're going to spend more than if you just bought the curtain. Because they come somewhat very simple, and it's just plugging it in and latching it up. We're taking it apart, setting it aside, the labor, which is often we find with a lot of this stuff. That was all, and this was missing from this video.
Your middle curtain and then the outside curtain on the far curtain on port 3 that's the one that's got the most damage.
We'll keep walking. Yeah, we'll keep going around. Also, we're looking at damage more than others. Certain events that happen in these areas, and insulation just can't take care of it. kind of PPE daily functionality?
Yeah, so I was just sharing that, from a daily use, the up-down of the curtains as we transition between all the activities is a really safety issue from a standpoint of, making sure you're doing the transition. We're trying to find a time when this facility is not used by somebody who opens at 5:30 in the morning. So even as we set up for a PE day or transition at the end of the day to practices, whatever's going on, just be really cognizant of who's around or whatever, and you're doing it all by a key from the control panel. And so you might be running the curtain over there, and as much as you watch, you may not see a kid that's running the track or doing a beginning warm-up or something like that. So it brings just from a safety standpoint, it brings a level of, a level of stress to our employees, as far as they work with that. The other thing is sometimes, I think we've had, I don't know, numerous times this curtain has gotten stuck in an up-down situation and we can't use it, and so we have to call repairs to come in and fix it. This one's been the most problem we've had.
And that damage then lays down.
So the new control, that's going to be one panel there still, or is it something that's still radio frequency that you can just
So
walk
what we got to, at least at the point, was it would be a touch panel at the thing. Now, one of the things is that, Mr. Kennedy was saying, the key to that, I'm telling you, the key is that you're there for 30 minutes. Yeah. If you want to do so the ability to hit a setting, you can then observe and make sure everything's going on and get better view. There are opportunities to have mobile infrastructure to it. There's just an extra dollar. When we were designing it, we felt that the touch capability and the ability to do presettings was kind of that threshold, that was really the level of functionality we needed.
So you could have a baseball setting, a volleyball setting,
You have
whatever.
a
Just
mini
press the button,
mini
mini
basketball
basketball, and
setting.
then it just press the button and it does it.
And they're all going simultaneously.
Right.
So, it's a 3 or 4 minute thing instead of 30 or 40. And that's the reason that we need the extra power, is because they're all going at once. Right now with this system, it's only shooting through power to one mode at a time. So now we're going to need it going through up to 24 or 30 individual devices.
Is there any possibility of using L-Flight safety on these?
We'll look into that. It was just the intake that we determined we could use those funds.
The intake, sorry.
It's
We can't make an argument because of the safety concerns on these?
We could try it, but
the next challenge is the amount of funds we have, and that fund is
and really while it's a concern, and there is obviously people in the conflict, having fresh air into a space is a very clear need for the space. If the structure was currently falling down, it could be a hazard in that manner. I could definitely see that. It really just comes down to which items do we want to utilize those funds for, because, as I said, you can't use it for everything.
With respect to the panel and the touch technology, it'll be new to us, but how new is it to the marketplace and how tested has it been? Because we all know sometimes the bells and whistles are more problems than they're worth.
So really, the technology is pretty straightforward, really. So while it's fancy looking, it's really doing the same thing on the back of the computer. So all those same circuits, let's actually walk over by real quick. To answer your first part of that question, it's been in the industry. So they're adding to it. They're adding, like I said, the mobility, mobile option to it, where they can iPads, things like that. Touch panel is doing the same thing. So you push something and it's sending a signal to these 4 all at once. So it's really very mechanical once you get past the touch screen itself. So it's not, it looks fancy on the outside, but it's really pretty rudimentary on the backside, the way that functions. And they assist actually with that programming, so at the beginning, you know, you say, hey, we want this setting, and then there's the ability to add additional setups.
And what's the warranty on the physical touchpad panel?
I don't know that answer. All construction has a 1 year kind of parts and labor right out the door. Different pieces of equipment have different times. So some have 2, 5. Some of these pieces might have 10-year warranties.
Right.
You know, motors probably have a pretty good warranty on them because it's just going up and down. They're less likely to warranty kind of the screen because that's much more likely to just for us to damage as opposed to things that are mechanical. I can look in.
That'd be great. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Would the device still be in this secure container? Like,
yes.
So it has this
We'd still be in this location. We'd install it in the same box. So we can still lock it. The touch panel itself, even if the door were open, would still require some type of code input.
I'm just worried about a softball swing.
Oh, yeah. No, it would still be safe within the panel. And the reason we put it in the same spot, again, was dollars. So we can rerun all these circuits. And that was another key to all this. We didn't want to have to rerun every one of these circuits after it was. It's not just as easy as pulling it out and moving it. In reality, they'd end up pulling the whole thing out from the whole new one.
Is there any Ameren work that needs to be done in terms of?
No, all the work would be within the facility. There is some work in the panel, I think, in that room, but that's between there and there, and that's just an electrician. That's part of the bidding. Anything else in this room? Perfect. I would say since we're right here, are these locker rooms open? Or are they being used?
I don't know if they're used. We can do that next.
It's up to you.
I know about the girls. These girls might be needing it. I'm not sure about the boys.
I don't know if football's out of there.
Oh, all right. FYI, it smells bad.
Is that part of the bid? Is the fix the smells?
That's why I was hoping for the girls. Just take a look and then we'll talk about it there.
Okay.
Probably stuff on the floor.
I do like the bulldog picture. That is a good touch.
It's a high quality frame.
It really is.
So if you want to take a look, honestly, we'll talk out here.
Oh, great.
Because I have to breathe and then talk and keep
Shower space is that back here?
That's right. That'll be some specific. Yeah, make sure the shower area up here in the front corner with the piano.
Thank you. locker room. They could probably get whatever they wanted to get the We really need some earphones.
Every time I tried to start talking, I was like, I breathed it in again. I'm like, no. Are you the last? All right, so the work in these two locker rooms is very similar, which is the way it is with each of them. Boys and girls is very similar scope of work happening. In these, the lockers are generally in good shape, so we had them being prepped and repainted, with some repair work to some of the doors and hardware that needed. In general, though, the bones of those lockers there's no need to rip them out and replace them. Painting the space, wall, ceiling, exhaust was another item, and that's actually approved, I believe, as well, HLS dollars, to improve the exhaust that's in there, replacement that's there. Lighting replacement, and then one of the key items that hopefully you all got to see around the corner is the shower, new shower floor, redoing that entire area. Epoxy resin type of flooring, epoxy paint, all that, intended for a shower environment. Same type of work happening in the girls. The only difference there is that the work at the shower is a little bit more limited. It's currently a storage space. We did determine though to leave all that plumbing in place as opposed to demolishing it. It's like, we never use that. The idea though is that in the future, if there was a desire for that, may as well just leave it in place and turn off the valve as opposed to demoing it all out.
So the girls don't have a functioning shower?
They don't even use it though. They've got it as a storage room. That's the way they use it right now for equipment and stuff. It functions, they just don't use it.
Thank you.
Would they use it if they were?
Yeah.
I don't believe it. I don't think so, but
They all.
yeah. But do the girls actually, would they use it if it were in better shape? I mean, girls. From when I was in high school, girls did showers really good. Yeah. So yeah.
Is that because of the configuration of the shower? Would it be different to that stall?
I would want to ask for which is actually my hunch is no, but that transition, that's why I think that space change.
Is there consideration to put stalls in the showroom?
Well, one of the considerations is that it's limited by its size, and we have to keep it accessible. So I'm not certain that we could, to be honest.
Are you talking
keep
about
it
the guys
accessible.
or the girls?
Either
Only
one.
the guys did.
And there would be, first of all, we got to make sure that it's accessible. People can still get in and around there, handicap-wise, being able to get in. There's also the cost. Right now, the way that's configured, we'd have to move several of those heads, I'm sure, to meet that as well. So it becomes a pretty expensive proposition pretty quickly.
Any of the plumbing being upgraded in here? Keep the same shower heads.
No, shower heads and the plumbing infrastructure functions. It's really just once the water gets out of the wall, everything finished there.
I forgot to look. Is there a step to get into the shower, or is it?
There's not an outlet. Those are expensive. Both of those go straight in. So the idea was that epoxy flooring actually would come out, and that whole corner there would all get that same resinous flooring, so that for traction's sake, as well as any water coming out, would be contained on that same type of surface all the time.
Do they have any problem with water coming out?
No, but I don't want to cause any. With the way that the floor currently is, it's sloping, I don't see that it's an issue we're trying to solve. It's just a matter of putting a threshold in a spot that we're never going to have water off. That would be my desire.
And I'm sorry, you said you are going to treat the shower in the ladies' room the same way the boys, even though it's not in use, and we're just going to leave it for now.
We're going to leave that one. That's something that if we decide to start using it again, it's like, it's flooring and paint, but right now it's a storage space. Didn't see the need.
How does the ventilation improve? What's going to make it better?
Well, we're replacing the exhaust that's in place that's no longer functioning, and we've engineered it in a way that will draw more air through the study. So the bigger fans, better ducting, more drops, things like that. Right now, the way that it is, it only pulls air through the shower. So the whole locker room, all that air has to get sucked through an ounce shower. You would actually enhance that to where it could go directly from the locker room out of the So that would really enhance the ability for it to even as well.
Yeah, how hot does that get in there in August? When football practice starts at the beginning of August. How hot is that locker room?
Really hot.
90?
That's why the big fan.
Yeah.
So the big fan. It's
Right.
hence you don't spend much time.
I mean, to me, putting AC in something like that would make a whole lot of sense, just for the ventilation purposes, drying equipment out. The guys come in and take a shower. Then it's humid and 95, and I don't know. I don't know how much it would cost, but I think that would qualify for health, life, safety. I don't know, but
The fans do. We want to be able to use health life safety for the AC because we're adding a system that's not in place. So that's where that line is coming with that. But we're not wrong. I mean, conditioning it that way.
The mold and mildew and stuff that I'm sure is growing all over the place.
Well, to give credit, Coach Atkins was just reading the locker room at the start of the season. Prior to that, that really dressed it up a lot. Fresh things. So I think he put a layer of Achilles on the wall to make Harrison.
Just good until it's coming out this side of the wall.
So can you get a bid or some sort of idea of what AC costs?
Yep, I took a. There's a mechanical mezzanine up there. So there's actually large air handling units that are up there that sort of down into that space. I mean, I don't know. These are just exhausting out. You guys probably know. What's that stuff serve up there?
Hot water, I'm not sure. I mean, it's the fans and the heaters. I don't know what else it goes to. That could be the heater on the outside wall.
Yeah, there's a mezzanine up there. And that's why putting the exhaust was fairly easy because we got some space to work with. Other locker rooms? Or did you... Yeah, is that closest or just is that close? Whichever you guys. Locker rooms. Okay. Any other questions with these before we walk?
This one doesn't smell.
I don't think it is air conditioned, but it's inside the building,
Right.
and it's not exposed to the outside really anywhere. So. All right. Yeah, this is boys PE. So there's boys PE in here. The boys team locker room is there, and then it's just the flip flop for the girls. So
This also serves as like a visiting football team locker room. as well.
So work in this room. Here we were replacing lockers, as you can see. This is to the point where you're going to spend more money in labor putting doors on than taking these out and putting new in. There's a lot of work that's needed for these. Paint ceiling walls and then replacing lighting. So that was really the gist in both PE lockers was getting these all replaced. The key to that not only is just that they're broken, but being able to have the capacity of all these lockers. So right now you can see there's 2 there, 4, 5, 6. That's 10 lockers that can't be used right there. And that's the way it is kind of around the space.
What type of lighting are you installing, and are we doing anything kind of motion sensitive?
Yeah, so for current energy code, we'll have to have occupancy sensors. That's just kind of baseline. We'll do LED, and they'll have to be not waterproof, but for moist environments. So you can see these are essentially, well, this one's broken, but they're typically sealed to the ceiling so you don't get moisture and things like that. So, but that's really the gist of the work in this room: lockers, paint, lighting. So.
Is there any thought in here of having stalls or something for kids to change into their PE uniform?
We did not explore that with this work. This was more refresh and update to these, but that's something that it's really just a matter of what are we going to lose to gain that, which oftentimes it's worth it. It's just identifying what that item or space is.
You're not doing anything with showers in this bit.
Nope. No. And as you can see, though, they're in much different shape than the ones that are over there.
Are they used?
Yeah, thanks.
I'm sorry?
Are they used
Yes.
during PE?
Some kids, limited during PE, athletic events, use daily. After practice, after events. This is where the locker room for all male officials, and most officials will shower after they work a contest, or like I said, football. Sometimes visiting wrestling teams will use this space as well.
So are the other 3 locker rooms, the 2 girls and the male team, are they in a similar condition to this?
Both girls, as is typical, are in better shape because the lockers just last longer. They're just treated differently. But the scope was to replace them similar to this. They're not perfect, and made sense kind of pairing them up. So the 2 over there, the 2 PE lockers, and the 2 team lockers. But yeah, as far as walls and kind of everything around you, very similar condition. The lockers is a space that when we walk into that, you'll notice night and day difference between the boys and girls.
So I just want to throw out that when we were discussing this work last spring and when we went out for bids and then got up to the point of maybe moving forward, that the locker rooms were taken out of the project because it was decided to cap the project at $1 million. So we're talking about potential work, should it be done, but when we were discussing this, like I said, in the spring, the locker rooms came off. Something had to go.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that, because the work I'm talking about, we had bid out because we
all
wanted
bid
to have
out.
the opportunity at bid day to see where bids were and be able to take what we could up to that budgeted number the district had outlined. So, thank you for mentioning that. I completely forgot when I started. Do we want to go through to the boys team, and then we can go to the girls, or we can just see the girls PE? Whatever everybody wants to see.
Tell me where you want to go.
Let's do the boys, because we can go through the office, and then we can shoot around the girls. At least we can just see the difference in the layout. You'll see these have the 5 high and then the full height next to it. It's different than the team one.
Everybody in here?
Yeah. Yes. So this is this space. Paint, lighting, again, just to bring those up to date. In here, you can see these are all single lockers. We actually were looking at We currently have 12 by 12s, and there's I forget the numbers off the top of my head, but we actually are looking at going to 15 by 15 lockers in here because the athletes can't actually get all their stuff into these. So oftentimes there's bags surrounding the space, during those seasons. So we have room. We can still get the numbers. We don't have to do anything to the base, which is nice. We just lose 3 inches of sitting space, but the functionality day to day made a lot of sense. So that is kind of a change to this current functionality. But
what's our plans with kind of the history of the painting? Have we thought about what we're doing? We're just going over that? Are we trying to save any of that? Is this too much detail? I'm just wondering. Looks like there's some fun stuff that we might not want to lose.
Yeah, we had called out for the whole space to be painted, but that's something that
selfishly, since I was a part of a lot of that, I'd like to see it stay.
Well, I think that's why I asked. It seems to make sense that if we can strategically keep some of this history, that would be nice to do.
And that's something easy enough to be able to adjust and react to. All right, let's go girls' locker room.
If we actually exit out the back door, that'd be the fastest way.
October 2nd. Right, well, Saturday is supposed to be like Mother Nature, like going off her mitt, right? Or something.
Sorry, Don.
No problem.
Yeah, I'll check.
Yeah, thank you. Well, no, we're okay. Maybe
I can do your shingles.
See? Skills. It's dark. Hopefully they're not good.
I'll let Colleen check that one.
Right?
Go ahead.
So similar scope of work in here. This is a good example, though. 2 things: when you see there's less nostalgia on the walls, and the lockers are in better shape. But again, providing the same solution for both the boys and the girls' locker rooms was an important piece. So the replacement of these was similar.
Do the same.
And this is the team locker room. Right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So just like the last one, these will also be the 15 by 15. It'd be great if we get to a 24 by 24 locker. It would just get much more expensive. We'd have to redo the bases, tens of thousands of dollars probably, and your quantities would drop. You'd have half of the lockers as opposed to 2/3.
Did you say in the other one that they're going to lose bench space?
Just the 3-inch difference.
So they're going to lose 3 inches?
Yeah.
Is that going to be able to sit still?
Well, I think the key is that they'll be able to put all their stuff in.
Do they sit down?
Very, very rarely. I mean, yeah, and sometimes they'll sit on the floor. They're usually in. Most, unless there's a contest, they're usually in and out.
Okay, we can continue through.
That door is the PE side. I maybe let one of the ladies go first just to check and see.
Pretty dark. I think we're good.
You're really loud as you go.
We're good. Almost floral. All right. Like, my house smells good in here.
So I warned you at the beginning, but you can see the difference in the shape of the PE lockers. It's not a Muhammad thing. It's the way in every high school across the state. Girls' locker rooms are always in better shape, but same scope. paint, lighting, lockers was what was bid out. Industrial tech? Or is there?
We're going to shift over to HVAC.
Oh, perfect. Yep, that works.
So we're going to go right back up that way. The closet across the street. Are you going to drink water?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Just one picture. There's a couple.
Nice and big. I love old school logo.
I need to get a picture. Make it look easy.
I'm just saying. I need one of these on the facility walkthroughs. Like when I'm going to stand pictures, physical needs.
So part of the conversation in these two rooms, this is the boiler room and also the control room for the boiler room. So there's a couple things going on that tie into the control systems that we're looking at, but also just upkeep of our equipment. We're going through identifying a lot of pneumatic leaks. The system is pneumatically controlled, and we've got leaks all over the buildings. You can hear it hissing here right now. We're continually trying to find them, and they're anywhere from bad tubing, bad valves, bad thermostats, or just disconnected lines. Something hasn't been hooked back up after servicing or whatever the case may be. But it's affecting our ability to control, in an obsolete sense, our mechanical systems, affecting temperature control and efficiency. So you can see we've got the old pneumatic board here is that's basically obsolete. The old secondary compressor used to support that is also out of service and obsolete.
That's the compressor.
Well, just these controls. Now there is a larger compressor up in the mezzanine that is a dual head, dual pump system that we've recently serviced and put a new dryer on, new control, and like I said, so we can have efficiency there. And it's back into a lead lag situation, so one compressor runs, it shuts off, the other kicks in, so we have even wear on both sides. So, and then in here, this is the actual boiler room and our main suite here. Again, it's initially we had the 4 benchmark boilers installed. They've been 10 to 15 years, my understanding. They don't have exact dates. We're down to 2 company boilers at the moment. Those 2 are operating throughout the building. The pumps and the valves that we have here that we have problems with, we have already just replaced and fixed. So these haven't been replaced yet, but they were sitting here. We're going to catch up there. We also have a similar situation with chilled water into, we've got a valve and an elbow that has deteriorated and one that's leaking down the basement. It's mechanical, so it's under control and safe, but at Christmas, we've already got the numbers for replacement of that valve and also the elbow. So that's a shutdown we'll do, obviously. We'll be out of mechanical cooling, so we can shut the chillers down and create the system and reach out. So we had a lot of small mechanical failures here lately. Things are just been aging.
What kind of cooling powers would be?
Well, we're gas to really much cooling. Right. Gas and electric. So this gives you an idea what we're looking at. There's other mechanical rooms around the building. There's air handlers and so forth scattered around, but I don't think we want to go up and down the ladders and back spaces. But if you want to, we can at some point. This gives you a good general idea. Yes.
I think it's proper breeze.
There's stronger breeze. And then we just replaced the building transformer outside with Ameren. We had leaks identified on it, and timing wasn't always good, but it worked out pretty good. We were able to coordinate with Ameren to do it early in the morning, so it had minimal effect on activities within the school 1 week before school started. So Ameren was great to work with us on that. So.
Was that at Ameren's cost or our cost?
That was Ameren, 100% Ameren. And it worked out that our custodial staff, we did it at the time they were coming in. We didn't have any overtime or anything. So
That's great.
worked out very well.
We should give credit to Steve for catching up on all of the facilities, information, stuff like this in the back rooms in the short period of time he's been here. So thanks for that, Steve. We'll hand it over to Dave and Brian from Amoresco to talk about HVAC controls.
Yeah, so a little bit.
You want to like shut that door, move away from it.
That was our Naomi show. Don't have anything else.
It's just cooler. I mean,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah,
it's
sounds good.
It's literally 10 degrees. Good one right here.
All right, yeah. So I'm Dave Shue with Amoresco, assistant of us, Brian. So we take a look at controls to give you like a 30-second rundown on what controls are. A pump is just a pump unless it's told when to go on and off, how fast to spin. An air handler is just a fan unless you tell it when to turn on, when it needs to be cooling, when it needs to be heating. So all those things are kind of behind the scenes, and that's what we took a look at here with you guys. Steve walked us around plenty of times. We have been up in most of the ladders and everything to look at all the fans and all the air handlers. You have quite a few of them. Right now it's piecemealed all over. So you have different parts of the building that are from different vintages and different years, and they're all in different controls packages. Some of them are just like we were looking in there where they're all pneumatic, where there's an air line that's telling the fan or the motor or the pump what to do. There's other parts which are a hybrid, which have some sort of electronics on it and some sort of pneumatics on it. And then there's newer stuff from 2014, 15, 16 that is 100% digitally controlled with electronics. What we would like to do for you guys would be, we put together a proposal to do kind of building a foundation to do a controls package that would be something where you'd be putting together a skeleton for developing all of your controls to eventually be digital once things are being replaced. What we thought would be of value to do is be building the skeleton so that right now, not 100%, we're not going to change everything because that's just an enormous amount of money. With things that are pneumatic, it's a lot of money to go in and rip those pneumatics out and then put a digital piece in when the piece of equipment is still working. So a fan or a pump that's still existing working, it's very invasive to go in there, rip out all the pneumatics and put it in a digital system. So right now what we like to do is do something where we're kind of adding in the base points for digital, and then as a piece of equipment fails, because we know Steve and Trent were talking about kind of in the future getting into more mechanical systems, more mechanical replacements. So as those pieces would come offline, the new pieces that would come in would absolutely be able to control and tie in to the new controls package that we've been looking at.
The reason for that skeleton too, the overlay would allow the entire facility to be migrated to one control system, so you'd be able to see what's happening throughout the building rather than having this section on one control, this other section on another. So you're future planning the building to be able to do the other upgrades that are needed, and as you bring in new equipment or new packaged equipment that has its own controls, it gets integrated and pulled on more simply than doing an overhaul with a tear down and
And
replacement.
to even build on that too, right now there's large portions of the school that are basically invisible to the facilities people here. So they don't know what's going on. They get a phone call from a teacher that's saying, my room is insanely cold. And then the next day they get the same call, hey, my room is crazy hot. And they don't know what's going on. So what we have in our proposal too is to have that single front end computer that you'd be able to log into. Every single space, every single zone, would you be able to see the temperature and the set point of what that we are trying to get to achieve. So before Steve gets a call, they can look and there'll be a red light flashing in the computer, hey, there's a room that's out of whack, maybe go check it out. So he can try and trace things down, especially with some of those pneumatic systems that are old, and find those problems before they're actually a problem. And then kind of going into more of that is this system that we'd be putting in, it would shine, because the kind of con is there would be shining some light on some of the systems that are existing that would pop up. It's not that they're not problems now, it's that we'd be able to see where their problem's at. So that's kind of I guess it's a con, but it's a pro in itself. So, also helping the school to identify those problems and then put together a game plan for correcting those problems, patching those problems until that piece of equipment that come up out of service and a new one gets put in its place is all included with our.
And with most of the projects that we do, we actually do most of our work for energy services, energy savings throughout facilities. We specify open protocol controls. I'll get into the weeds. It's really hard without showing you certain devices. Certain ones can only be programmed by the contractor that puts it in. They have the license that says, I'm the person that can come and take care of it in this region. What we specify are what's defined as open protocol, meaning that there are typically multiple vendors throughout an area that are all capable of coming in. So you may have a service contract with a certain vendor now that does very well, that we do it, we all do it, have failures in servicing customers later. You have opportunities then to bring someone else in without having to do a rip out and replace, which your pneumatic system has limited numbers of people that can come in and service it right now because it's not a technology that many people have.
How does what you have planned here compare to what we did over in the new Milltown building?
Milltown, I don't.
They didn't do the work. Oh, okay, that answers that question.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Just tell me about it, I'll compare
That's
it.
okay. My second question is for your skeletal plan and what you have scoped so far, what percentage of this building has been, would you say, is digital? Are we at 10% or are we at 40% as we move forward in our
If you're
planning?
looking at a floor plan of the entire building, you'd be able to visibly see 100% of the building. That's what we thought what value would be, is having facilities people would be able to see the entire building. As far as the points that are up in the ceiling and removing the pneumatics, we're not talking about a lot. We're talking about maybe 10, maybe 15%. But the reason why we're not taking those out is because they're expensive. So try to keep the price where it's something reasonable for a skeleton. We're not ripping out a lot of the pneumatics. We're just tying it in to create that.
So we have the plan that we can see, and then you said 10 to 15% of the actual mechanics will be replaced within this.
Yeah.
So the valve that tells the fan to be hot or cold on some of the units will remain pneumatic, meaning that air is going to power it. But the space being served by that will be on a digital thermostat. They'll be able to read on the computer so you know if you're getting heat or cold into the room.
So
So
the
you know what the
thermostats will
students
be
are doing.
being changed. Some of the valves and things up in the ceiling, a few of them will be changed. But for the most part, an air handler and a pump, those that are being controlled pneumatically now would remain as pneumatic.
So those pneumatic controls, they're all centralized? Or you have to go each
Centralized
hallway
would kind
or-
of be the tough one. So there's one
I mean, we can monitor
compressor.
this system, but we can't make adjustments to it, right?
So you'd be able to make an adjustment for what you would want your temperature to be. Pretty much as simple as that. but you wouldn't be able to adjust the PSI going to a single individual valve, or the very minute instances of how the position of a specific damper. You wouldn't be able to do those. Those are already programmed and already running on the pneumatics, and that's where you're going to see some of those red flags pop up, where you can now see which ones are not operating properly.
So if it's 70 in your room, you want it to be 72, you can make that adjustment and change it. You couldn't go to that valve or the fan and say turn the fan on higher. You'd change the temperature and the air handler would do what it's supposed to do by itself.
Right.
You couldn't override it.
Yeah. So you don't really change the efficiency that much with
Efficiency of a piece of equipment, no. So like a current fan that's running at a certain power is going to remain operating at that certain power. But what we can do is create schedules and setbacks. So say even right now at 6:30, you can be setting those so that the school turns off. So right now we're hearing fans and pumps running right now. We would have those turn off, so at the nighttime the temperatures would creep whichever way they need to depending on the outside air. And then once your 6 a.m. classes start, the system will have already been running for an hour, so that once you have somebody step into school, your temperatures are back to where you want them to be. So you're not saving as efficiency on the pieces of equipment, but on how often they're running.
That's something that could be added to that is adding VFDs to the equipment.
Absolutely. And again, as soon as equipment starts to go down, and I know that's in your future plan, you guys are moving forward, all those are absolute ability to tie in, and we can adjust those and measure those and tell those where to go on the system that we're proposing.
And the new DDC controls can take control of those VFDs. The pneumatics, I've seen somebody jury rig one to run that way, but it's not common.
The comparison with Middletown is two different technologies that we're looking at. Everything in Middletown is all electronic. We do have a current EDC system there that we finalized with the contractors and controls and everybody actually they're doing on the 14th to hopefully get everything buttoned up on that one. But it's a different technology, totally different technology. This is air handlers and boilers and fans and all that kind of stuff where we have independent diagonal systems throughout the building where they're the controlling zones. Just similar to staff, but totally different technology. But the control system will still allow us to visually monitor the entire system. There's much of the system that we can incorporate in this application. It's helped.
So as we make changes, will we be moving towards a building that operates more like that other building?
Yes.
And this structure is the skeleton that allows us to do that.
Trying to be as non-invasive now as possible so that we're not cannibalizing on pieces of equipment that are still working and functioning. Because there's a lot of pieces of equipment that can run 20, 30, 40 years, and some of them are only at 10, 15, 20. So there's still lifespan left. I don't want to rip those out or add in a bunch of money onto those things just to have them conk out, and you have to replace them anyways.
Does any of the work that you're doing qualify for any of the energy efficiency rebates
Absolutely,
that are available?
absolutely. Hammer in. So on the kilowatt saved, you get 18 cents for electricity energy savings and $2 per therm saved. So we've done some basic estimates on how much savings you get just by night setbacks alone. So you're still having the same fans, the same things we've been talking. We're not changing any of your equipment, but just running them in a more efficient manner. You can save anywhere from 5, 6, 7, 8%, all the way up to 20% of your energy usage on some of those pieces of equipment. And so we have those built in.
Do we know what that translates into dollars?
Yeah, the rebate they built in was between $63,000 and $98,000. I believe in the final proposal, the numbers on the third page, it's like 75, I think. Yeah, just as an average.
And that kind of depends on a couple of options that are outlined in there.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? I think that's kind of long and short of it.
Appreciate it, guys. Any other questions?
Sorry, no show and tell.
No.
We could go back in the boiler room.
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
I think we're ready to go into
industrial arts space.
All the parts.
We're going to flag up the files.
Yeah, well, maybe just a little bit, just to make sure. Sure.
Yeah, okay.
Good job.
Add this skill to my resume.
Well,
All right. So scope of work on here is really kind of two key systems. One is the dust collection system. So the dollars that are on that sheet that Trent handed out, kind of breaks it into three pieces. One is the actual equipment, and if you went outside, you'll see a big old fan unit, and those filters and all that sucks all the air through all these tubes. The ducting is all this stuff. So all these gates, piping back, to collect it. And then the last dollar that was included there was just the installation of it. So really, the system's operating. It's just that it's at the end of its life. It's been functioning here for 25, 30 years, and there's just better, newer technologies that can go into place of it. It would really function very much the same as it does now, as far as there'd be a big unit with big filters, out to smaller tubes, down to each piece of equipment. This would be a good opportunity if there is any need for modification. If this tool's been here for however long and they've been wishing they could move it, this is the time that could happen. Probably not even have an impact on cost. But yeah, that's how that system works. This system also is quoted out by vendors of this equipment. So there is the opportunity, because of the low cost of it, if you will, relative, that you can deal directly with a vendor to kind of get that best cost, because it's the vendor selling the equipment and installing the equipment. Any questions on that?
That would be health, life, safety.
Yes, I didn't mention that. Yeah, and that could be health, life, safety as an original piece of equipment. It's reached the end of its life. Indoor air quality is one of those things that we were talking out in the field house. That's one of those things that's very easy to make the case of the need for it. It's not an immediate danger at this point. It's just gotten to the point where it's not functioning as well as it could be. So that's dust collection. The other is some dollars in there for spray booths. So currently, this space over here is referred to as the finish room. So this is, as y'all pop your heads in, this is currently the space where, finishes for woodworking, spray painting, anything that they don't want to do in here, or want to do outside because of overspray and because they're dealing with, finishes, happens in this space. At the back, you'll see there's something that looks like a science lab fume hood with lighting and things like that. Really, again, reached the end of its life. The fan, does that work? It does, not as well as we'd like it to. You can see, this has some filtering in it for the air between the two spaces to be able to draw air through. It does function, but it doesn't function as well as we'd like it to. So the dollars that I've included in there, the system that would go in place, we essentially take advantage of this entire space. But the way the technology would work is that at the back of the room there'd be this big piece of equipment. On the back side of it, there's about a 30-inch deep duct. On the front of that is a bunch of air filters, and then that would suck the air through the whole space into those filters and kick it outside. If you've ever been in like an auto body repair shop, in the paint booth, it's that. It's exactly that technology, exactly that product even, just not as big as a car. Also, lighting in the space. I believe that it was originally probably a storage room, and then they added finishing, and then they realized there wasn't good enough lighting. Replacement of lighting as well. It's an important thing in these kind of spaces to have the right lighting as well. Depending on the type of system that we do with the fan, that includes some lighting with it, but then we'd also need additional lighting out kind of in the rest of the place. So, this is another similar to this that has a potential, easy argument to the ROE of health and safety funds if we decided to utilize those dollars in that way.
So the instructor indicated too that while the fan works on the exhaust system, but it doesn't filter everything out, so it's taking out raw paint fumes and so forth, so you can actually feel it on anything that's around the duct outside. So theoretically, if you start it, you get it.
And one of the things to this, it's not just as easy as change the filter. A lot of these pieces of equipment are old enough, they don't stock those filters any longer. So, again, it's just it's been 25 years. It's just easier.
Which way does the exhaust go? Directly horizontal?
You would have to go that
this way. We have to look out here. It goes up, and then I believe it goes out.
Well, there's another classroom over there.
So really, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's kind of like this one where it's unplugged, put the new system in, reconnect it. It's really straightforward. It's just a matter of doing it. I think that's all for those two.
How's this space in general? Is it cramped? It seems like a pretty small space for what they do.
When they're able to do, depends on the project. So like right now, that's a base for like the sheds that you see with the manufacturing class cells. And so when they're able to get outside and do work, and the weather's nice, they can spread out. It will get a little cramped depending on the class and the projects that they have. But yeah, once you get all the different projects going in here at the end of the year, manufacturing these different cabinets, tables, etc., it fills up.
I mean, I went to a high school that had 125 students in it total in high school, and our industrial arts building was, the room was 3 times that. It's just,
I think they do a good job of maximizing the space that they have. The room back there is where the CNC router is, where they wrote the grant a few years ago. That's a big part of their curriculum too. Kids.
How's their equipment holding up? I see fans all out of order.
Yeah, we work with. We get some federal money, the Perkins grant, and then the CTEI money from the state. So we've got budget for that to where we work to slowly replace it as it goes. We try to forward plan on that a little bit. They do a good job with that. But if something goes big in the middle of the year, that's where we run into a problem.
Have we looked at a way to reconfigure things and create space, or have we done any work to kind of say, is this the most efficient setup? If we have the opportunity to move things, does it make sense to look at the configuration that we have as well?
I'm sure Mr. Ndraki and Mr. Anderson have some ideas, as to how they could utilize it.
And they've been very involved with
Yeah, they've been the lead of this to this point. Just input from me on my experience with it, but there's some limitations to how much space. You only get so big, you're so spread out, and also some of these bigger pieces of equipment, you'll see how big the power cords are to them. There is a lot of flexibility because a lot of power goes straight up, which is great. We're not looking at a bunch of outlets on the floor, but that would be really the other limitation. I agree. I think if moving the tools over there, or now is the time it would happen.
What's that space back there?
That's a classroom.
That's a classroom.
Yeah.
Head over to the dish room, the kitchen now.
Yep.
We can land in the office. We'll discuss that.
Anybody else has questions for Brian or myself? And Steve and Lindsay want to go over with Amresco? Let us know. Thanks. A couple things I forgot to mention. Sorry, I'll walk in. On the last page of our packet, we did have our lifespan, or term limits, or terms, whatever you want to call them. Our term is 10 years, so we do guarantee our savings. So kind of going back to your question is, do we have Ameren savings? Yes, we have Ameren savings, but we also have yearly savings that we guarantee as Ameresco for our energy service contracts. So that term with the cost of it after the rebates would be 10 years. And that's just something that an energy service company does. As Ameresco we do. Any other questions? I think that's the last two things I just wanted to All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Steve?
Good job, girl.
this one.
Oh, okay.
He's done a lot of work in getting quotes and different solutions for repairing what we see here. So take it away.
So a couple of problems that were identified. Part of it was health code related. Two things being the dish machine is original, I think, to the original construction of the buildings that dates back to the late 70s. It's been functioning fine, but we have a problem with the main pump servicing the unit. It's leaking all over the place. And unfortunately, yes, you can just go buy a new seal and put it in, but something this old, you can't just pop it apart because then everything falls apart and you run into more problems. And it's indicated that we'll end up with a defunct motor, and it just continues to escalate. So we finally got to the point of looking at a new machine. So we looked at a couple of options of replacing, this piece of equipment with another, with a couple of different manufacturers. Some were extremely creative in their pricing, extremely high, had all sorts of additional ventilation requirements. Then we started looking at equipment that had self ventilation, where it would take the steam and regenerate it through the unit and use it to help heat water and so on, which would eliminate substantial costs involved. We're still looking at that. I'm now looking at some leasing options, or lease to buy, lease to own options with CMI. They've introduced some really eye-catching pricing and with some good equipment and so forth. So there's a number of different manufacturers. This Hobart's been around for a long time. It's been a good piece of equipment. But there's Jackson is supposed to be good. The ADS that we're looking at is supposed to be good. They all come with good recommendations, and all have a little variation in price point. With Hobart, you're obligated to Hobart. Every piece of wire, every cap, every screw, you have to buy through Hobart, and your Hobart technician has to come out and visit you and all this kind of stuff. Somewhat limiting, where some of the others, the Jacksons, the ADSs, and so forth, they're a little less, well, definitely, anybody can work on them. And some of the units are simplified in their operation, where you eliminate all the circuitry and all the fancy stuff, just back to nuts and bolts, where you can go down and play switches and fuses and all that kind of stuff. So we're looking at options for considerable cost savings. An example being, to replace this would be right at $30,000. That's without the exhaust, additional $26,000 worth of exhaust system that we have to install to accommodate this, down to I'll say around $4,000 or $5,000 for a simple machine that suits our needs. One of the things we also looked at was, what are our needs? This system was installed at a time where we did all the cooking. We had trays, everybody had spoons, knives, forks that we fed, so everything had to be washed. Well, now we're down to less than 50 trays that have to be run through the dishwasher, which is all what you see on the shelves here. It's all everything that they use to prepare the food and serve the food. Nothing that the students use. That limits, really dramatically reduces what we need to provide as far as equipment. So that's giving us some real interesting options. The other thing that we've got is, because of the wet, we've identified problems with the flooring. We've got this tile flooring is popping loose. And we also have some ceiling work that we have to do because of the steam that's been generated here for so many years. The exhaust wasn't adequate enough to pull it out. So we're going to come through. We have to, obviously fix the ceiling, repaint. Walls are in good shape. We really don't have to do much there. But the flooring is an issue. Besides the fact, the only way to fix it is to remove it. Well, we had it surveyed, environmental surveyed, and this is asbestos flooring. So we've had to take a look at what's going to cost to abate and everything involved with abating the flooring. And our contractor on that has given us, I think, it's a pretty aggressive price.
Yeah, amazing.
Initially it was $3,000 to come in and seal this area off and abate this entire floor, and be done in a couple of days. Well, they also threw in an alternate, because this is the same flooring that's in the rest of the kitchen area. So for $7,400,
$7,168, yeah.
So we can abate the entire room. And of course, then we have to look at coming back and doing something over. So we're looking at different epoxy flooring options. We talked to one vendor. We've got a price of
$6,600 to epoxy floor, just the dish room, or $26,900 to do the entire kitchen, including the dish room.
So are we looking at the epoxy, kind of like what we put in restaurants?
Yes. Yes, exact method. different colors probably, simpler color.
Dating asbestos.
Yes, absolutely.
So, and that's only one vendor gave us a number on the epoxy flooring, so I'm looking at some other options. And if you've got any additional contractors, be glad to talk to them. So,
Yes,
there,
sir. Go ahead.
no, I was going to say there was one suggestion of coming in and just with anything asbestos you can come in and overlay on top of it, encapsulate it. There was one vendor that had a very interesting program, but after talking to David, you pointed out again, while it works in some applications, not the best, it just pushes the expense all the way around because if we have a failure and we have to go through the floor, then we have to pay that plus the coating. So it's
And not only that, the abatement that they'll be doing now is like a heat removal, so where it's not like a full containment, they're walking out in suits and bagging everything. They have to bag the material, but they heat up the floor, it melts the glue, they scrape it out and throw it away. As soon as you put that epoxy over it, now becomes a containment. So that $3 a square foot that this was becomes $15 a square foot. And yeah, so it saves you a couple bucks now, but you get it out of here. You don't have to worry about it.
we're set our future up for failure.
No.
So, Steve, you said something about health code violation. Have we been written up for that, or you're just
Health code is dinged us on the wet floor and also the ceilings.
okay? And do they have? Sometimes they give you a time limit on fixing it. Have we been put on a program like
they
that?
know that we are in the process of, so they're riding the wave with us.
They haven't dictated a timeline yet.
No, they have not.
We've been showing efforts towards, they know we want to.
I'm sorry.
What are we thinking about when we're breaking?
Yeah, we're thinking. I've got a tentative date with the abatement for Christmas break to be the second week of. So I've got them on hold. I'm just waiting for some final go ahead to proceed with that, and then of course come up with a solution for covering the disability committed to doing that. So.
Right. So we're on the schedule with the asbestos abatement if we choose to go that route. I think that there's definitely a need here. We should determine what management priority is.
Right. There'll be
We
labor.
always cancel that, but
And so, do we have to send this to bid because of the total cost of the project, or because we were piecing it out?
well, if the machine is included, is it usually excluded?
No, the way that this is, and just so everybody's clear too, the threshold for bidding construction work is $50,000.
Oh, not 25.
Yeah. Professional services is $25,000.
Thank you.
It's $50,000 for construction. So this work, to me, it's two separate things. One is taking care of the floor, one is doing the unit. Now, if we're going to relay out the whole kitchen and those three things are part of it, then it's one project.
Okay.
But in this case, I would see it as it's a floor and it's a unit.
Okay.
The two separate. So,
All right.
especially if we went a leasing direction, something like that, that company, that's something to keep in mind too, is that if we combine these, you now have a flooring manufacturer that has to go find a dishwasher person to give them a bid, to give you a bid. You're not going to get a good turnout that way. So I think the
I
two
just didn't
separate.
know if we could piecemeal it out.
Yeah, yeah.
The lease options really introduce some phenomenal cost savings, and again, in a few years, whatever our terms are, we end up owning the equipment too. So it's very intriguing. There are some miscellaneous costs involved as far as the hookup. As we lease a piece of it, they'll come in 7 degrees. We'll have our contractor hook it up.
Some plumbing work.
A little bit of plumbing, a little bit of electrical. We also reduce some of the heat requirements on the water's changed, and so we'll reduce electrical infrastructure that we need, and also some cost savings in electricity and heating of the water. The prep for this will require all our facilities to come in. We'll pull everything out that we can. We'll have to do some unbolting. We'll have to store, secure some things, but it'll be well worth it.
Did you say the new unit would be sized to just wash the pans, the serving pans?
The volume would be the volume where, gosh, I forget how many. One of the units that we're looking at is sized to do 74 trays, or racks per hour, which we're using. Yeah, down here. So they can run 74 of those through in an hour's period, but we're only on a worst case scenario, we're maybe 50.
Are students using disposables? Is that
Disposable, yes. So that brings us back to just pans and silverware and obviously cookware and so forth.
are these machines, we ever changed from disposables to go back? Do these machines have that capacity, or is that been kicking us into a different tier?
It's something we consider in the selection, but yes, there are machines available in this program as well. But based on the information we provided and talking to Arbor management of what our current volume is, and we're trying to size above that. That's where we come up with that.
I appreciate where we are, just in thinking.
Yeah, we may go
can't
back.
keep using all this plastic.
Right. Yeah. No, I understand.
The next size up in dishwasher is maybe $6,000 or more than this, so that's kind of
And that gives us.
That might give you more capacity.
Right. Yeah, and it goes up. That went up to close to 200.
Okay.
So that was on those. But
One thing with that too, just as we think about that, is that the functionality of the space too. You know, how many kids were in the school when this was put in, this window size.
Right.
Yeah, you can run 200 trays through at a time, but can you fill them on that side?
Right.
You know, if you have enough people up there, 2 people constantly rinsing and filling, would you ever even get to that? Without major reconfigurations to this.
I just figure though, if you're gonna buy a big piece of
Oh, yeah.
equipment, maybe you
Yep.
plan for what you don't know yet.
Right.
So I just like to know the cost differences.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We'd still use this table and then the
yes, yeah.
stainless
They'll
steel.
attach to that. These actually hang on a hook. That's how they're connected. And then we have an option on all the new equipment, whether we want, what temperature we want to run the water at, depending on how clean it is. So what our requirements are. So if we need to add, if we can't maintain 140 degrees that we need to with the water, then we can add a booster, which is substantially cheaper and easier to use than what we have here. The hot water booster here runs off of 480 volts.
Okay.
So there's a lot more efficient equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, that's also original to the building as well. So it's the next building. Any questions there?
We have plenty of time for the office. We want to head that direction. So that we don't have time.
So they use this campus to
I'm always carrying over next year.
Right? Yeah. Definitely a moment.
If this happens to happen again, let's make you a robot.
Okay.
And the robot can just follow everybody around.
Yeah.
We could, I know what we could do. We could get you a, we could get you like a Roomba that you could put your voice recorder on, and then you could attach a device because there's transcribing programs now. They're not great, but there are. So then, it could get like right next to the person. You just have to program it to follow one person. Yeah, it's a good job. Do they have recording capabilities?
I don't know.
I mean, they have
I don't
video.
know. Yeah, we can do that.
All right, so so the work that we're talking about here is there's kind of different levels of how many of the pieces that we would, once we do a certain piece, then we have to do another because it offsets something. So right now, kind of the baseline is that currently visitors to the building front door is locked. They're buzzed in. They then come up, to this door and are checked in here. Student check-in, check-out's happening on the other side. So that traffic, it's not functioning as well as it really should be. And it's really kind of becoming an issue for how kids can get in and out. So what we're looking at is there's an office behind this area. Rather than having the check-in, check-out divided up, looking at putting a check-in window along here. There could be a little small table so you could scan your ID and get your sticker back. But there'd be visibility. There'd be a small pass-through window. So if somebody needs to drop off a paper or at lunch or something like that, they can have it right there, and the visitor can be on their way. Also looking at putting a window, just a small opening here so that they have visibility down the hall. So now, rather than checking and then the person's in the hall up to this point, they'd have a point of view as soon as they're in the door, so they could see them approaching. Also, it would allow them to not, just as they're sitting there working, they forget somebody came in, and they pop up on them. So that piece of work really could function and happen by itself. Also with that is adding a visible a window that would allow both of these reception desks to see each other, just for communication between the office and having that ability to see your visitors coming, make sure that if somebody came to this office, it's kind of another set of eyes. So really with that work, we have an office where we can displace that room, and that could happen as a standalone item. The next piece within this admin area though, and we can actually step in there, but with this, it moves some offices around, and we'll be using this office right here, correct? And what would be in there?
Well, Mr. Garrison, guidance counselor, is currently in the office, would become the new attendance office.
Yep.
And so Mr. Garrison or somebody would utilize the athletic secretary's office, which is where Pam Wu is now. And then she would probably move back over in the area from Mr. Hensley's office, where she was before we made the switch over here.
So if there's any concern, based on guidance or social work, those types of things being in this office, the next step is looking at that conference room that's just around the corner. It used to have an operable partition between it. That's been taken out years ago. But really the idea would be making two offices out of that. It'd allow you to better zone those different departments between social work and guidance and those types of things. This office could be something that's a little bit more front-facing as opposed to those. But then as we get in there and you see it, once we displace a conference room, we now need to create a conference room because it's used heavily by faculty, staff, public coming in for meetings, things like that. So that conference space would actually happen on what used to be kind of the student office side. So let's walk through, just keep our head in here, and then we'll go over and look at that.
Let me just say that this idea kind of spawned off of school safety, and that we were looking at, as visitors, these doors will lock during the day now, and so those doors are locked, and so people come in and they check in at the main desk. If a student comes in, they're checking in via intercom, and then the secretaries can buzz them in now through those doors. Okay. But then students have to walk all the way around, like if they're late or they have a doctor's appointment or whatever, and they walk all the way around and they check in. This would eliminate everything. We could unlock the front doors now if we wanted to, because this is secure. And then there's just one buzz-in point, which is this check-in office. So all packages, deliveries, visitors, we're not running through multiple doors and people going everywhere. We get it centralized in one spot. When you look at the office in the conference room that we'd like to divide into two offices, a couple of schools of thought behind that is, I think it's in talking with Damien about this, it was a pretty easy thing to do, and it creates more space for like our social work area. We're finding more kids with their social emotional needs, and we're cramped up here with kids during the day, trying to meet their needs for different counseling services, social work minutes, and different things of that nature. So this would help provide some space for that. Plus our conference room, we're having a lot more meetings with 504 plans, IEP meetings, and so forth. And we're finding there's more of those. We're having a lot more just committees and different meetings in general. So the vision was maybe a little bit, naming that was a little bit like the conference room that's in the admin area in the main office at MPE as you walk in, the smaller boardroom. So that was some of our thoughts as we began to lay this out and how we would displace. And then the other thing I think is the carpet, right? As you walk through, there's the carpets.
And that's just a general overall replacing. Yeah, this is broadloom carpet. It's been here for 20 years. With the rest of the finishes, and putting in carpet tiles, they're much more durable, easy to replace, take out, clean off.
So, if we move to this mechanism, then we have what they're kind of suggesting these days is the double door lockdown, right? So if we kept the front doors locked,
we still could,
still have this secondary and kind of we have this encapsulated area where someone can get in but can't get any further.
Correct.
And they have to buzz in twice, correct?
Yes, because technically right now, we buzz them in, and this door is unlocked, and they come in and check in. We could go ahead and lock this door, And then, I mean, really, their only point of entry is to get buzzed in here or there.
Or buzzed in there. So it gives that safety.
Yes. Yes.
Let's pop in there and we'll look. As Mr. Benedict said, it's a really easy change at this conference room. So we can pop in.
Are we just walking in here or are you gonna?
Yeah, I'm just going to real quick let the board members know where the scope is in here. All right, I got 2 minutes in here and 2 minutes in there. So this is really as easy as a wall here where this used to be, new ceilings, new lights. Sprinklers are already divided for 2 spaces, HVAC, so it's really a matter of building a wall that would go all the way to the deck for privacy and have insulation in it, new lights, new ceiling, and then the carpeting. The carpeting for this space I actually included in the overall figure, looking at it holistically in that way. Pretty small space, it wouldn't be a major game changer for this. And I think I have 2 minutes, so we'll go over to the other conference room.
Correct. So they would come all the way around.
So by having attendance office and all of that happening on that side, it used to be that that was kind of the public front door and this was the student front door. With that all happening there, this space is no longer necessary for kind of checking in, checking out. So as Mr. Benedict mentioned, this is a workstation that would remain or come back into service by doing the secured entry place. This is the area that we were looking at for new conference space. So there'd be a wall that would come around here, a couple doors into it, and would create that conferencing space. Now, one of the keys to this is that with that plan also, we're pulling this wall back. There's a bathroom right back there. That's gender neutral use in the facility, so you give even better access opposed to students currently that go around the corner. And then this space could then function, as a conference space. Its isolation from kind of the front door also gives it some additional privacy to where visitors can come in and how you can let people in the building, things like that. Just gives you more flexibility. But very similar construction, it's metal studs. You have to go all the way up to the deck. We'd have some ceiling work and lighting work. The work that I've included here would be new within it, and then we'd patch and repair on the outside. If we wanted to go further, we can. It's just dollars, so it's just how far we want to go with that. I did look at an option where we put the conference room kind of in that corner. The issue is the space gets really narrow. It might work, but you're going to look at me when you first walk in and be like, really? You got to walk in this thing for 20 years? So, yeah, so that's kind of.
Is that where you think Pamela would go then?
Yeah. And that's where she was before she moved back.
So we still have this as a functional door.
Yeah.
But there would be a wall here that you would kind of walk into?
So there'd be like 6 feet from that wall out, so there'd kind of be a corridor around it. What we could do too to make that not feel like a cavern is there would be some glass in the conference room. I would see that with blinds. And then one of the keys was keeping really the only access this direction is for that toilet room. The rest of this is kind of teacher use or aides that are kind of allowed to be back here. So it's not like there's a ton of circulation happening here. It's just about getting there. But yes, that would.
And you would increase the size of that opening?
Yeah, that would go. If you come over here, you can see it's about, I don't know, 6 feet. Yeah, there's about 6 feet back to that wall. We just go right to that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
What's the footprint of the conference room similar to what they
Yeah, yeah. It's, pretty much inferential.
Visual.
Yeah.
That is this part.
That's all I have for these. So yeah, just to recap though, the first move, the check-in window, is kind of a standalone. It could happen by itself, but then some of those other office moves, that requires that conference room, and then that requires this. So that's the domino that tips it. So that's all I got today.
few other items on the list that we can't really look at, so to speak. But tennis courts, we've had that on the ongoing list because we originally had it on the bid for Middletown Phase 1. Kept that on the list just because we know we have now programming for that. You know, and then also have the roof, some roof repair as part of the existing roof that we had done a few years back. Some of the dollars upcoming for that. On the list.
The variation there is we identified in that 5-year plan kind of the highest priority roofs. You know, when compared with the first year, we did some coatings here this year and some re-roofs. At this point, I mean, roofs started out in good shape. Let me start there. But then, as we're getting to the point now it's a matter of maintaining them and getting that next 30 years of just going and checking them. With health and safety dollars, because that's what we've been utilizing, that's why there's 2 variants. The first number, the larger number, was kind of what we had next planned. The second number is the following year, but it's might make more sense to happen sooner just because the dollar is available. None of the areas in kind of the bigger dollar are like going to fail tomorrow. That's not a concern, or we want to shift them. But it just seemed to make sense that way. Yes, tennis courts, that's for 8-court. Some districts you'll see will look at 6 courts. Then you have to have lights essentially to be able to host anything. Of length, so that's looking at 8 to not need the lighting.
I think we had turf and track here at the high school, close to 1.4 million. We don't have that on the list here, but that has been on the ongoing list as well.
Questions? What kind of condition is the track in?
It's in terrible condition. We can't host any sectional meets. And we really don't do too many home meets. It's in disrepair.
And if you look at junior high school track together, that's probably one of our biggest talent items.
Any questions for that?
Do you have the turf and track separated out in here?
It's not the total.
Yeah.
The .4 about is the track, like a real rebuild of the polyurethane type track. I can tell you can get a track that's less than that, and you're going to replace it very soon. And there's latex systems. I live in this district. I would not recommend we do a latex system. We're just going to be dealing with it in
12 years I've been around, we've done the track twice. I think it's time. I think it's time to do something different.
Yeah. So that's approximately that .4, because there's more base work to happen. We have to explore it. Maybe we could spend less than that once we get out and kind of cut into it and really see how the base is to it. But that's looking at new asphalt, new poly system. And one of the things to keep in mind with that is if the reason they're priced together is that if you do the turf first and the track later, if you really wanted to, you're gonna damage your track in some way. But doing your track now, you've almost pretty much made your decision not doing anything to your turf for at least a decade, because at that point you really don't want to be rolling anything new over that. It's gonna paint yourself into a corner. So we typically see them happening at once. There's a lot of changes to the way the curb works. There's a concrete curb that's put in it. Doing that with a new track, there's just a lot of logistics that makes it a lot easier and cleaner of a process. So that's why they're priced together.
For the 3 sets of locker rooms, which ones are used during the school day versus after school?
So the blue locker rooms were in the PE side by the gym are used during the day, as well as the team, depending on what sport or what activity is in season. Those students get, because they have more stuff, so they'll get the bigger lockers. And then they'll rotate out.
But they use it during PE class?
During PE.
Okay.
The field house locker rooms are not used during the day because of supervision. We don't have enough people to have everybody in one spot.
Okay.
All right. I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Thank you.
5 minutes passed. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can we keep all of this?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have some too. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
I have those, but yeah.
Oh, you have two over one.
In the main office or outside? Yeah.